What if I told you that our entire modern world, our phones, our computers, the internet itself, was basically built on sand? Well, silicon, to be precise. And for decades, one company wasn't just building the chips, they were literally architecting our future. This is the story of Intel.
You've seen this sticker a million times, right? Intel Inside. It's slapped on almost every PC you've ever owned. But it's so much more than just a brand. It was a promise of power, of reliability. The story behind that little sticker, though? Oh, it's a true Silicon Valley epic, full of crazy ambition, mind-blowing innovation, and some seriously high-stakes survival moments.
So let's go back. Our story kicks off in 1968, way before we called it Silicon Valley. It was just the orchards of Santa Clara County. Two absolute geniuses, Gordon Moore and Robert Noyce, decide to leave a cushy job at Fairchild Semiconductor. Why? Because they had this radical idea to build the entire future of electronics on these tiny, tiny slivers of silicon.
And here's a little tidbit that I just love. It really shows you where their heads were at. They almost called their new company More Noise. But they said it out loud, More Noise, and realized, yeah, that's a terrible name for a company that's all about precision and electronic clarity. So they landed on Intel, which is short for Integrated Electronics, a perfect name for their mission. Now, Intel didn't start out making the brainsier PC. Their first big hit, back in '69, was actually in memory chips, making stuff that was way faster and denser than anything else out there. But then in 1971, they did something that changed everything, the Intel 4004. This wasn't just another chip. It was an entire computer's brain squeezed onto one tiny piece of silicon. This was the birth of the microprocessor. And fast forward to '78, the 8086 processor basically becomes the blueprint, the DNA, for the biggest tech revolution of the century, the personal computer.
Okay, so let's jump to the era where Intel goes from being this niche tech company to an absolute global titan. This is where a powerful alliance and a pretty ruthless business strategy put an Intel chip inside, well, just about every PC on the entire planet.
You see, the Wintel alliance, it wasn't just a partnership, it was a juggernaut. It was the perfect one-two punch. You had Microsoft's easy-to-use Windows software on one side and Intel's incredibly powerful and ever-cheaper processors on the other. This combo just created an unstoppable force that set the industry standard and basically crushed all the competition for decades.
And this right here, this was the philosophy driving them. It came from their legendary CEO, Andy Grove. Only the paranoid survive. And trust me, this wasn't just some catchy phrase for a poster. It was a business doctrine. It led to some incredibly bold and yeah, sometimes ruthless decisions. Like when they launched the game-changing 386 chip, they refused to let anyone else make it. They made Intel the only source. It was a huge gamble, but it paid off, creating a monopoly that cemented their dominance for years.
So what was the result of all that paranoia? Well, by the late 90s, Intel didn't just have a big market share. They had a total stranglehold. Over 90% of all personal computers were running on their silicon. That's the kind of dominance that doesn't just make you a market leader, it makes you a king.
But even kings can stumble. In 1994, a math professor discovered this tiny, tiny flaw in the mighty Pentium chip. It could cause some super rare calculation errors. This sent shockwaves through the tech world. At first, Intel kind of brushed it off, which was a huge mistake. The public backlash was intense, so they did a complete 180 and announced a total recall. They would replace every single flawed chip, no questions asked. It cost them almost $500 million, but in the end, they managed to turn a total disaster into this massive win for customer trust.
But a king's reign can't last forever. After decades of just undisputed dominance, that paranoid giant started to get a little sleepy, a bit complacent. And while they were napping, a new generation of rivals was in the shadows, sharpening their blades, ready to make a play for the throne. In this slide, this really gets to the heart of Intel's crisis. You see, for years, their big advantage was making the tiny transistors on a chip smaller and smaller. It's called a process shrink, and it makes them faster and more efficient. But then, they got stuck. For years, they couldn't make the jump from their 14-nanometer process down to 10. And in that moment of weakness, their old rival, AMD, staged this incredible comeback. With their new Zen design, they used this clever chiplet approach and allowed them to make processors that were often more powerful and cheaper than Intel's.
The impact was, well, seismic, especially in the super profitable server market. The engines that power the entire internet. I mean, just look at these numbers. A market where Intel used to have almost total control, AMD has just surged. grabbing a staggering 36.5% of it. This wasn't just a little competition, it was a direct assault on Intel's crown jewels.
And it really wasn't just one thing, it was a perfect storm. Their manufacturing engine, the very thing that made them great, had stalled out. Then came these devastating security flaws like Meltdown and Spectre that shook public trust. Then, a huge partner, Apple, very publicly dumped them to go build their own chips, all while AMD was attacking them from every angle. The giant was, well and truly, on its knees.
So that brings us to today, into a brand new battle for the soul of Silicon Valley. This is the story of a fallen king's desperate multi-billion-dollar gamble to try and reclaim its throne, and, once again, define the future of computing.
So what's the new battle plan? It's called IDM 2.0, and it's basically a three-pronged attack. First, they are pouring a ton of money back into their own factories to get back on the cutting edge. Second, in a big show of humility, they're actually going to use rival factories to build some of their chips. And third, and this is wild, they're opening their own factories to build chips for other companies, maybe even their direct competitors.
And they are not messing around. They are backing this strategy with absolute mountains of cash. We're talking tens of billions of dollars flowing into these enormous new manufacturing sites, not just in the US in places like Arizona and Ohio, but all over the world, from Germany to Malaysia. This isn't just a small bet, it's a declaration of war for the future of manufacturing.
But here's the thing, the battlefield has totally changed. The future isn't just about PCs anymore, it's about AI. So now, Intel is in this desperate race to build the special chips that power artificial intelligence. And that's a market completely dominated by NVIDIA. This is a battle for the next era of computing, and for the first time in a long time, Intel is starting way, way behind.
So there you have it. From a clever name to a global stranglehold, a humbling fall from grace, and now an all-out fight for its future. The company that basically defined one whole technological era is now betting everything it has to define the next one. The question isn't just whether Intel can win this new war, it's whether it can even survive it. The future of computing really does hang in the balance.